Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar.
The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here, reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hi, Jim.
Hi, David.
So, we've had, I think I probably had a very eventful weekend compared to what I normally have, music-wise.
Crazy.
Yesterday, I went to Good Time Music. I got to try a couple of pedals. I tried the new Big Muff Triangle Muff variant. I tried the Op Amp Muff. I tried the Angry Driver from JHS/Boss. From Boss. And I have my reservations about buying one because I don't want to give JHS money if I can avoid it. And that just basically is because I have issues with JHS taking other pedal companies' designs and just recreating them. But I may end up pulling the trigger on that once I unleash my Pinnacle on the market.
Unleash the beast.
Yeah, because it's good. It's better than my Pinnacle.
Before that Pinnacle goes anywhere,
I know.
I better get first dibs.
Oh, yeah. No, you will, of course.
So, you got to talk to us a little bit about the concert you just went to.
No. Wait, we're getting there. I was blowing my nose for those of you. I wanted to mute it so nobody would have to hear it. So I was invited by show follower, show contributor, Dan Kish, to go see a metal show. Now, most people, when they go to their first metal show, what are they thinking? They're like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or like
that's me,
Mastodon or something. More mainstream metal, right?
Yep.
Most people's first metal shows are probably like Ozzy Osbourne or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And now, listening to some of those bands, I don't even think they are metal. My first real metal show, because I don't consider Korn to be a real metal show. I think we mentioned on a previous episode, I'd seen them years ago. Was with basically the most brutal metal act you could possibly imagine. The singer, George Corpse Grinder Fisher. I believe that's his full name. I believe that's his full name, but I could be incorrect because I just call him Corpse Grinder, right? And Cannibal Corpse, okay? If you're not familiar with Cannibal Corpse, each of their songs has been described as a grotesque, macabre murder in short story form. Okay, that's the lyrics to their music. Songs like "Make Them Suffer," or I'm trying to think. Oh, I can't say that one. I don't want to say that one because it makes me blush when I say that one. I don't have song titles sitting in front of me, so I can't give them all away. But look up their catalog on iTunes if you're curious. There's at least a few that I don't feel comfortable saying in front of a live audience. So
yeah, hear them. Even the F word is not as bad as
No, yeah, I'm sure, Jim, are you looking at their Wikipedia page right now?
Yeah,
So you see the one I'm talking about.
yeah. I see a few.
Hammer smash face and things like that. Like the hammer smashed face. I believe there's one about, like being ripped open with a hook or something. Like, okay, so you can get, this is what you're getting. You're going to watch music where the lyrics are about murdering someone in a grotesque, awful, brutal way.
Yeah.
They have been the targets of various politicians, including Bob Dole, for censorship. Are asking people not to buy their music and not to go to their performances. So,
and that just makes people go.
Yeah, dude. Like,
I don't know why
oh shit, I want to see this. Like
the only thing that is the funniest thing. We'll have to talk more about that afterwards. Because the funniest thing I think is whenever somebody says, "Do not go to this."
Yeah, that's like it's like a train wreck. You can't look away then.
Right. The instant response is, "I've never heard of them, but it must be interesting."
Yes. Okay. So Cannibal Corpse. So let's go through the list of bands. So the first band, no name band, local band, didn't care for them at all. Second band was Harm's Way, which is they were a very hardcore act kind of band. I would say like 10% kind of like Entombed, 90% very hardcore style, like punk / metal, right? They have their roots in like hardcore punk music here in Chicago. I guess they were members from other bands that came together to kind of form a parody band called Harm's Way that ended up eventually becoming a real band. Seeing them, the couple of key things. Sound was awful. I didn't really feel like I connected with the guitar players on stage at all. The singer was the highlight though, because of this, right? Like I like Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff.
Right.
The guy shows up on stage. He's got cut off khakis and a tight like tan polo shirt, right? White dude, kind of sandy brown hair. He looked to be about 35, maybe 40. Gets one song into the set, rips his shirt off, and his upper torso had to weigh at least 300 pounds. The guy was massive.
Oh my God.
He could have thrown the members of the band into the audience should he so choose. It was pretty impressive. And then, of course, he just did the angry, like, I'm going to stomp around the stage for an hour and, pretend to hit my cymbals and, for the drummer. And, it was okay. I just didn't connect with them. I would say the vocals there were probably a little less Cookie Monster-ish than people would assume you would see at like a Cannibal Corpse like concert performance. The band that came after was Hate Eternal. Hate Eternal has a guitar player. He's pretty gifted. So it's a 3-piece band. The drummer that they had was very impressive. Now he was using the trick double bass pedal, so we get 2 hits per swing. He had mastered that. And he was, doing all these blast beats that just were nuts. And the only way that guy was getting through the show is because he was using really, really good technique. He was not overexerting. It was like watching a jazz drummer play metal. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Very quiet. You could tell that there wasn't like a lot of stage noise from the drums. It was a very different style of mix. And the guitar player, like he's very skilled. I would say like not my cup of tea. Very much like lot of tremolo stuff. Not with a tremolo, but like tremolo picking. And some of his solos are really cool. Maybe a little bit too shreddy at times. I didn't really connect with them so much, but I can respect it. Like there's actual skill there, I guess. And then of course, so just to give you some background, we get to the club. I realize immediately that it's like all floor except for upstairs. I go upstairs. There's a bar there. We had some food. They had VIP tables. Of course, there was pretty much nothing else unless you want to be back away from the balcony. So we, when the first band started, I walked downstairs for a minute. It's wall-to-wall people, sold out show. I couldn't see the stage, so I went back upstairs, huddled around a table, one of the VIP tables. We eventually ended up, because we stood for the first 2 bands, we decided that we were just going to take over this VIP table until they came and kicked us out, which we did, and they did eventually come kick us out. Right after Hate Eternal ended their set, Kish turned to me. Now, Kish is a guy who's my age. He's 30. He would be like 32, 33 years old.
Right.
He turns to me and he says, I'm going downstairs. Now, I thought we had talked about this before the show. He's like, oh, no. He's like, I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I don't get in the pit. I don't get involved in that stuff anymore. Yeah, he wrote out that entire show at the front of the audience. I'm sure there was some pitting going on behind him. He was, it was one of those things. And then the other thing, he's like, we get in there. He's like, oh, the pit's gonna be real small. It's gonna be like, he's put out it's gonna be like 6 or 8 feet.
Right.
Circle. That pit was pretty much all of the down the stairs. I looked down there and there was like literally, 30 by 30. And then at one point there was a circle pit going. I'm like, fuck this. Like, there's no way. So anyway, Cannibal Corpse comes out. They take the stage. I'm assuming this is like a typical set for them. We did not get to see very much of the band in the beginning because everybody was crowded around the tables. And actually another friend who we were with, he was not feeling well. So I wanted to attend to him, but I knew I was there to hear the band, right? So I got to see their stage setup. They had 4 full stacks, triple rectifier full stacks, right? And from what I've seen online, they tend to run them pretty much full out. And it was, so is it, the club is a 1,500 square foot club. It holds 1,200 people. It was unbelievably good sounding. And the first 3 bands, I was like, this venue sucks. Like Cannibal Corpse is going to sound like shit. Cannibal Corpse sounded great. And it was because they knew going in small clubs, this is probably what they play in all the time. If we show up to this gig and we let the PA do the job, it's not going to work. So they bring their full stack maces in and they just rip. The band sounded incredible. I know it's not all original guitar players. Basically the founding members of the band are the drummer and the bass player. And then of course, Corpse Grinder came in later. But Corpse Grinder defines the sound of that band to me. Like, he is the perfect vocalist for that thing. And they sounded brutal. I did have to put earplugs in for most of their set. At the same time, it was the tightest metal sound I've ever heard in my life. You cannot imagine, with the blast beats and all that stuff, guitar players being as in sync as those 2 guys were with the drums and the bass. I've never seen a band that tight in my life. And I mean, I've seen a lot of acts now. It was really freaking impressive. You don't get, even getting hired guns to rehearse and then do this. These guys are on the road all the time, and it's really clear that's what's going on. If you've never seen Cannibal Corpse, their tickets are usually fairly inexpensive. It might be something you want to go do. I know that kind of brutality is not for everyone, but it's one of those things where if you can appreciate musicianship, and it may not be the common musicianship you think of. I mean, they're not doing a lot of solos. There's not a solo in every single song. They're not, nobody's like really stepping out and taking the whole club and saying, I'm the star of this show. There's none of that stuff going on, but it is guys just with raw power. And that's what they left me with. So I didn't walk into the club not a metal fan, and I certainly don't feel like metal is crap when I walked out. I will say this much. I think to experience Cannibal Corpse, you can't listen to the records. You have to see the band live. The records don't make as much sense now that I've seen the band live. The sound isn't there, especially the older output. It's just one of those things where there's not a big budget for doing this stuff. And so you don't get great producers who understand what it has to sound like on the record. Even that, they started in 88, right? The equipment didn't exist that makes this sound possible today. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Just to characterize it, one last thing, to characterize the crowd, everybody there was representing Cannibal Corpse. Like, I don't think anybody there, I was probably the only dude there that was like, yeah, I like Cannibal Corpse, like a casual fan, And I will say, I see this at every concert, but it never ceases to amaze me how many people go there and they get so fucking blackout drunk they'll never remember the show. And that's what I saw. I saw people with,
stoned.
Literally, There was a woman behind me drinking a pitcher of beer. pitcher in hand, beer
right
in
out of the pitcher. Yeah.
Okay, right out of the pitcher. And she was leaning over me, putting the beer pitcher in my face because she was so drunk she couldn't hold herself up properly. And I turned to my friend. I said, if she spills that on me, I probably will get kicked out. It's like, this is not going to end well. But, you get inconsiderate people at every show.
Yep.
Some bands are worse for this than others. Fortunately, I feel like I got my money's worth. It was a very inexpensive ticket. And I would highly recommend, if you're interested in seeing what a metal show is like, Cannibal Corpse is a good way to start. Not all metal is like that. Not all metal is that brutal. In fact, I was at Good Time Music and I brought it up, and Jeff over there says, they're a little bit too brutal for me. And it's like, yeah, I can understand. Like, after sitting through that, watching the pit and everything downstairs, yeah, they're a little too brutal for me too. In the sense that I really wish I could go see them in a venue with seats.
So I just got tickets to go see Little Ozzy.
Oh.
Which, if you YouTube Little Ozzy, folks, it actually I'm a little let down because the band Little Kiss, all the members were little people. But in Little Ozzy, only Ozzy is a little person. The rest of the band is actually,
normal
height.
size, average
average height. Using the word average. That's our PC word of the day. But anyway, so actually they could be relatively short like myself, and you wouldn't know because that guy's really
you're
short.
certainly not average, Jim. You're way below.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not Steve Stein short, but I'm short. That said, it looks amazingly good. The music's online sounds good, so I'm gonna go. I figured it was $10 for the premium seat. $10. I'm going, and that's just a place like where you went, where at least I have a place to sit and I have a bar of my own. I don't have to go out and fight my way up and through the crowd.
So I was looking online. And I actually wasn't online. I was at Cannibal Corpse show, and the same venue was hosting Mac Sabbath.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen what Mac Sabbath is, do yourself a favor, go over to YouTube, search for Mac Sabbath, search for More Ribs instead of War Pigs, or some of their other prejudices. This band is great. I'm going to be looking for them to come back to town because I'm going to have to get tickets to go to that one. Although I do want to go see them in a sit-down venue. Because
that was tonight.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't because I was about to buy a ticket. So Mac Sabbath, check them out.
Yep. Going to see Little Ozzy.
One more thing before we get into the show's topic for the night.
Yep.
Year of No Gear.
So now you have to...
I'm in month 4.
Yeah.
I posted today in the group, and I don't know that people understood necessarily what I was saying, which is that I wasn't announcing that Year of No Gear is over. What I'm saying is that I feel terrible because even though I'm in the middle of Year of No Gear, I've still managed to buy a Guitar Throne, a Fuzzface Mini Germanium, a Boss TU2, a GNL Tribute Legacy, and a Gator Progo gig bag, right?
Yep.
Some of these things were needed, like the TU2. I needed a floor tuner, and the gig bag had to have it. The Guitar Throne, it was a little selfish, but something I needed. But buying a guitar, man, I don't feel good about it. I feel like I just cheated on Year of No Gear like really bad. I haven't really been playing it all that much. I think I played it last night for 20 minutes or something while I was noodling in that chair, just because I didn't want to go in the other room and get the other guitar. But I know that I've got 2 purchases that are coming up. One is a 50/50 from 60 Cycle Hum / Pelican Noise Works. It's probably going to happen if I can get my hands on one. I know it's a very limited number, so there's a very good chance I won't end up buying one anyway. And then the other one is the King of Tone. So
Now, I thought you had a 50-50.
no, I've never had one.
Oh,
Nope. I've had DoD 250s in the past, but
okay.
never a the dual 250
What's
thing in the 50.
what's the one from them that you do have? Because you have one.
Oh, I
from
Pelican Noiseworks. I have two Pelletars.
Oh, that's it. Peloton.
The Pelletars
You have
we
the-
started out making.
Yeah, you have the regular Pelotar that's got like the gold box, and you've got like a black edition.
Those are fuzzes, and this is an overdrive. So
yeah.
And the DoD 250 is like a classic overdrive. So anyway, I'm probably still gonna get it. I do feel like I'm probably just gonna put it up in a drawer because at this point, like I feel really bad about the way that I've behaved. I'm not done. It may be if you want to make fun of it, you can say year of less gear.
You've actually spent as much or more than I have on gear during your year of no gear.
Oh, I don't know about that. How much do you think I've spent?
I don't know. What, $800,000?
Probably. You spent $900 on the SG, Dim.
$850.
The $850 on the SG, and then you got a Strat on top of it.
Strat's not for me. Matter of fact, Strat is my son.
Then I haven't spent $1,000.
That Strat is my son's.
No, that doesn't. You're going to use it for the pickup mule, though.
Yes.
So,
yes, and then at the end, it's going to be his.
Which matches up with the Tribute Legacy. So,
yep.
Same thing. So, really, in honesty, I've spent a lot less than you because you bought an $800 guitar.
Yeah. No, not really.
How are you comparing? I have $100 gig bag, $100 tuner,
yep,
$100 fuzz, and $100 Cherith. That's $400 if we don't count the red Strat.
If you don't count the red Strat,
which you're not counting yours.
No, I'm not.
So you spent $800 on an SG.
Hey, look, Jim,
you lost. Give it up.
No, my logic.
My numbers make sense.
Hundreds of people on Facebook have agreed.
Have not cared. Hundreds of people.
Don't give a
Hundreds of people on Facebook have not cared about Year of No Gear. I get it.
Exactly.
This is a personal thing, and I'm down about it. So month 4, I'm hoping to get a nice item for Christmas so that I don't have to break Year of No Gear, and that feels terrible too. But I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I did not expect the show to grow the way it did in that time period, and things to happen like us having to buy pickup guitars and things like that. So that's a big part of this.
Yeah, we both would have had not bought guitars. I wouldn't have bought that Strat at this point.
Right. Neither of us would have. I need another Strat like I need a hole in the head, which is why I've joked in the group about next year being Year of No Strats.
Yep.
Excuse me. So now let's take a step back. Jim and I had a conversation earlier today about I had mentioned to Jim, have you ever listened to Ghost?
Right.
This really comes out of a conversation from last week where he'd mentioned like, what bands would you characterize with other metal bands?
Right.
And he said Ghost, and it was quite clear that he didn't know what Ghost sounded like. So I brought it up. I was like, why don't you listen to some Ghost?
Yep.
And he didn't like it, which is fine. But he came back to me, and what he said, and this is what's going to spark our topic for the evening. What he said was, Nickelback is better than Ghost.
Yep.
Nickelback.
Yep.
Okay. And I asked him what his logic was, because me being me, I'm like, you need a therapist. Okay. That was the way I reacted to this. Like, you're out of your goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he comes back to me and he says, they have better hooks. To which I replied, really? I don't remember a single Nickelback song.
They do write better hooks.
Now, this is not true, because I do remember one Nickelback song, but I don't remember the hook.
You remember all the Nickelback songs.
Never made it as a rich man.
You remembered one. There you go. That is it.
A poor man. Yeah, but it's just the lyric. I don't remember the melody or anything.
That's it.
So anyway, that's all I remember of Nickelback, okay? And granted, I was in high school when that band was popular.
Yep.
And
let me ask you something. You were in high school when that band was popular, right?
Yeah.
No question.
I graduated class of 2003.
So I got to ask this question: when you were in high school, how popular were they in your high school?
They were not amongst the people that I hung out with, but I hung out with everybody. So the other people that I wouldn't like call up or hang out with outside school, they were listening to them. I remember seeing Nickelback T-shirts.
Yep.
I remember people on the school bus listening to Nickelback CDs and laughing at them. Because even back then, I was like, "This is not rock. Like, what is this? This is it just did not have the kind of attitude that I would expect from a rock song. The one thing, and you know how much I hate Nirvana, Jim, but the one thing I would give Kurt Cobain credit for is at least, and it's not the attitude I like, but at least there's attitude in that music. Whereas Nickelback, it just seems like a middle-aged white dude complaining.
You know what? I'm gonna come from the side of the fans of Nickelback. Okay,
they don't have any.
Yeah, they obviously sell. It's like
no, selling and fans are two different things. You go to a Cannibal Corpse show, you'll see fans. You go to a Nickelback show, you'll see a bunch of people who know Nickelback songs.
That's right.
Two different things.
Now, that's what I want to get to. That's where our conversation is going to go, folks.
Well, anyway, I have it started out. Can I say something before we?
I can say this. No, because I want to finish the Nickelback thing. And that is, there are a lot of their songs that I think you would be surprised. I think it would surprise you, especially if somebody covered it and you didn't realize it was a Nickelback tune, as to how good they are. And that's because, honestly, when you can listen to some of their stuff that wasn't popular, but it's like, that's probably, I can bet you that anybody can say that about just about any band. Some of their least popular songs, like Animals and SEX and stuff like that, are the ones that actually are their better. But
I can't comment because I don't know any of these songs.
Right. So now, before we get into our topic, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah. So I wanted to approach this from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I wanted to look at this from the abstract and then kind of narrow it down to be something that you can understand. And I'm not talking about you. Now, I know I will not be able to convince Jim, but I know I can at least present an argument that I think some people will be able to understand and may enlighten some people into ways that, they don't normally think. So the idea is that what is the purpose of art, right? First question for anybody. Jim, what do you think the purpose of art is? Get your take on it first.
Honestly, I think that is left up to interpretation, but the purpose of art is to express yourself.
Is it to express yourself? Okay, so, and that goes along kind of with what I'm going to say, which is that the purpose of art is really, it's communication. And it doesn't necessarily have to be communication with the outside world, okay? It can be communication with oneself.
Right.
You can produce art to express yourself, and that's the idea of communication.
To yourself.
To have a self-realization, right?
Right.
So now this is where we back up, because we've talked about this on the show before, like what makes something successful, and I want to make sure that we're very clear on this. This is not about what makes something successful. This is about purpose. And so does accomplishing your purpose have any bearing on whether art is good or not? Now, I'm talking about music. I'm talking about art in a general sense. Remember, I was going to go from the abstract to the small, right, facet we're going to.
Right. So if I would say that for art to be successful, it would accomplish its task.
Right. So if we go back to the original statement, which is to express oneself or to communicate, if you on my side, that means that doing that means that you will then have successful art. Now, here's where it gets complicated.
Okay.
So,
all right.
If we're talking about communicating with either oneself or others,
and we have to
distinction.
We also have to define success. Success
is a different thing. We're leaving that out of this at this point.
We can't if we say that.
No, we're getting there. Trust me. You're gonna have to hold on to your seat for a minute. So if you're communicating either to yourself or others, then what are we talking about? We're talking about the audience, right? So the audience can be oneself or it can be other people.
Yeah.
And audiences can be diverse, right?
That's correct.
So you can have an audience that is focused on one genre. Where we get to this and then we're going to start narrowing down. We get this in the guitar world. You've got guys like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and all these other crazy lunatic guitar players. And I mean, there's a million of them, and they're in all different genres. Those people are speaking to guitar players and musicians as an audience, right? They're
For the most part.
They don't care about, yes, right, Jim. Obviously, there's going to be some spillover. But I'm just saying, their focus is, especially guys like Vai, is to impress guitar players.
Yeah, there was while you're in that, there was a comment he made during his Premier Guitar Rig Rundown a few years back, the older one. And he said to the young lady that was interviewing him, he said, yeah, they took my blood and put it into, the
DNA
guitars, the DNA guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you could probably take some of this and clone me. And then maybe you could maybe that person could grow up and write songs that people would listen to.
Yeah. No. And like, it's genius because he knows who he is.
That's exactly
who they are.
Exactly.
That's how they can focus in on their audience. My point is that a big part of producing art is to understand who your audience is. Now, when we go from the perspective of monetization and who's making money off this stuff, that's a whole nother animal. And
Correct.
It has a lot to do still with who's your audience, right?
Correct.
And how do you write for that audience?
And your definition of success.
If your definition, let's go from your definition of success. What is your definition of success? Right?
Oh, definition of success. Definition of success when it comes to what I want to do when I create.
And I've had prior knowledge of this because we've done this on the show before. But what is your definition of success?
Yeah, my definition of success is that if I am able to play for people and they're willing to come to my shows and we have a good turnout and I make enough money to
there it is
pay for my gear, and I and you're absolutely right. I am not interested. The truth of the matter is, and this is where it comes from me, truth from my heart, is I'm not interested in making music I enjoy.
Yeah, he's not interested.
That sounds weird.
In that perspective.
That sounds totally weird to most people. They would say, are you insane? You don't write music that you're not interested in making music you enjoy? You know why? Because if I have to spend 2 days or 6 days memorizing a solo, I mean, this is a long solo, it's my Sharona. If I have to spend tons of time memorizing music to play for people, what my definition of success is to look out there and see those people dancing while I'm playing and enjoying themselves and drinking and having a good time.
Right. Well, and then to get a little bit of that green too, right?
Yeah, I get some green that's a side effect of it.
That's exactly what I wanted you to say.
And
it fell into my trap.
Right. It is. It is a side effect of that. So I might sit down, like I'm relearning the stupid, I mean, it'll take me about 15 minutes, but I'm relearning the stupid intro to Brown Eyed Girl. Why? Because we decided to add it. Would anybody in their right fucking mind do that? No, of course not. But the thing is that I know that when we play that out, there are people who are going to love it, and they're not musicians, which is why that's why I've always been afraid to put what I play on YouTube, because what I do, you go, oh, that's great. That's funny.
I have both hands in the air right now because I feel like a fucking therapist. I do. I feel like I've accomplished something here because I laid a trap for Jim and Jim has now fallen into it.
I don't know what it is.
No, I'm going to explain. So
I'm so stupid. I don't know what.
No, you're not stupid. Look, it's a very abstract thing. We used an abstraction funnel to gather your thoughts, collect them into a little basin. Okay. And now you're pouring out the things that I was going to say anyway. So here's where my whole point is. If we go back to that original idea of like, what is the purpose of art? And it's to communicate either oneself or others, right?
Yep.
And then we talk about the fact that I had mentioned that monetization and success are parallel, or they're perpendicular to that.
That's correct.
And that has to do with the fact that I think if you appeal to people's base senses and you communicate effectively with your audience,
Yes.
you're going to accomplish your purpose.
Absolutely.
Okay. And by accomplishing your purpose, you get these little parallel things that happen, like make a little bit of money. And
Right.
Jim, playing covers is part of that. Just because you didn't create the song doesn't mean you can't use it to communicate. It totally, that is exactly what I'm getting at. Now, here's where we get into the part where I know I'm not going to be able to convince you of this, but I can at least bring it up and try to get our listeners thinking, right? So we talked about Nickelback, and you mentioned they have great hooks, right? I'm the guy that's going to sit in the corner and say, I don't give a fuck about hooks. I really don't.
No, I agree with I totally respect that.
No, it's fine. But here's why I say what I say. Okay, so the hook for me in music, when somebody sits down, like you hear about these country guys, they're like, I'm gonna write this song and I got the verses down and I gotta come up with a hook for the chorus, right? They're gonna come up with a hook. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to come up with a hook. It should be intrinsic.
No, exactly.
It should just happen on its own. And if it doesn't, then you don't have a muse for this. Like, and I mean the muse in like the abstract sense of like this thing that inspires you to do things that are great.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem I have with modern music, dating back to the period where Nickelback, and even bands slightly before that, and I'm talking specifically about rock music and a little bit of pop music. Well, pop is guilty of this and has been guilty of this since, the mid 80s, where they were going to write a hook and that was going to sell the song. And that was the most important thing. And they'd have 10 writers in the room trying to come up with this hook, and they'd all get credit and they'd all get paid. I think the bands that were able to intrinsically do this on accident, your Soundgardens, your Alice in Chains, and I'm talking about bands from the 90s because that's such a contentious period.
Right.
They're the ones that have gone on and been seen as like the harbingers of music for that generation, right? And you can go back in time and you can see that throughout the 80s. Like bands like Guns N' Roses. Ain't nothing in that music hooky, right? No. But I guarantee half of the listeners of this show could put on Appetite for Destruction and sing 3/4 of the songs.
I think I would say that a lot of Appetite for Destruction had hooks. When I think of Welcome to the Jungle, I can say this for me. That's for me. Maybe I'm seeing a hook differently. But for me personally, when I hear the intro to Welcome to the Jungle, that's a hook for me.
The intro is not. That's. I can see what you're saying, but
yep. And when the
riff maybe.
That riff is my hook.
But there are other songs on that album that were smash hits that didn't.
Oh yeah,
like Mr. Brownstone.
Mr. Brownstone.
Maybe the vocal part is a hook. Maybe.
Yep.
And it's such a quirky song. Night Train.
Night Train's hooky.
Yeah, I guess the main part in there. But like Rocket Queen?
Rocket Queen is definitely not a hook song.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a single on the radio either because, there was actually a woman having sex on that track, which I found out recently, and it didn't really do a whole lot for me. I was like, I don't know if I can listen to that song anymore. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, you don't see it the same way anymore, do you?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. So it's a different time. I'm sure people who are growing up around that music at that time were like, that's just, the way music is right now.
Yeah, so that was my mid-30s, my early to mid-30s, and kind of the apex of rock music for me. Now, when it comes to hooks, when I say hook, it's something that when I hear it, I instantly think of the song. That's what I see.
I see that as the recognizable part of the song. A hook is the part that they use either in like the chorus or the bridge that repeats over and over and gets stuck in your head. So that's why I said when you said the Appetite Destruction main riff, I was like, yes, that I could see, definitely. Yep. Yes, it can obviously be like a little catchy guitar part, but that's it. It's catchy. And it's the shit that they repeat over and over to drill it into your brain.
You're the bass line to Money.
Yeah.
Definite hook, right? The bass line to Brown Eyed Girl, the song I was talking about before.
Now, I'm not discounting the fact that, yes, there are many songs that have little catchy things like the intro to Appetite for Destruction, or I would consider the intro for the whole album, but
Yeah, that little you know, that whole thing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that, you know, that riff that Slash plays during Sweet Child.
Yeah, and so that riff was actually an exercise that they ended up using on this song.
Yeah,
Like,
that was an etude that
it's
he
like a whole thing.
Right.
But yeah, no, I totally get it. So I'm just saying that, like, accidental things are one thing.
Yep.
But for somebody to sit down and say, like, I'm going to craft this piece of music so you can't get it out of your head so it will sell more, that I have a problem with.
My Sharona. Want to go back to that G, that simple, so simple.
That whole song is a hook. Like, there's multiple things going on there that are very memorable. But it was, I guarantee you, when they went in the studio, they were not like, hey, I bet nobody will ever get this out of their head.
You know what he did? He wrote a song that he was hoping that
girl would,
that teenage girl that he was
would come hang out with him, you know?
He was like 25. She was like 16 or 17.
Yeah. So,
and she's still around. He's
now,
not.
This is why, this is really the reason, and this is the core reason I took issue with what you said about Nickelback, though.
Yeah.
And my immediate reaction was, hooks are not more important than the message of a song. Because that goes back to that original statement of purpose of music, communication, right? They can be used to support it, but they're not more important than it. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, but what was their purpose? I mean, I'm sure that a bunch of young kids from southwestern, right? They're from southwestern Canada, right?
Who are we talking about specifically? Oh, you're talking about Nickelback.
Yeah, I think they're from like Alberta or something.
Winnipeg, I believe.
Yeah, whatever.
How the fuck do I know that?
I don't know.
I can remember the stupidest shit.
You could tell they're Canadian because of the way they say "about" and stuff like that. But the thing is that when I am willing to bet that they wanted to pad their bank account.
Look, I have no problem with a band making money. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with a band with no integrity making money.
Yeah, but who is responsible for that, though? In all reality, we can be pissed off at exactly. Who should,
not me? I never bought the record, so
right. Who should be mad? Who should be upset that Nicki Minaj and Rihanna sell songs with stuff like "Stupid Ho, Stupid Ho, Stupid Ho," and the song that goes work, 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 work. You know what? Lowest common denominator. I can't. And so, is Nickelback carrying did they carry a torch for rock and roll? I hate to say this because I hate to admit it, but you know what? They did. Through a period of time when people weren't listening to rock, listen to me. When they weren't listening to rock,
because I don't believe they're rock music.
Bands like Three Doors Down, bands like Nickelback, these guys.
Shit they were trying to force down people's throats, and they did. That doesn't look, and that's part of the reason why I don't agree with you. If you have radio stations, and we all know what happened with Clear Channel in the late 90s. And we had bands and pop artists alike who were getting shoved down everyone's throats. And I'm not just talking about the American public, because we know Clear Channel has operations overseas too.
Right.
Well, that's the problem, is that they took advantage of the fact that nobody thinks for themselves anymore. And now they're seeing the destruction of their industry because they fucked it up.
Well, I don't know okay. So I come from the old days. This exact same argument was being made by two guys just like us on microphones in an FM studio years and years and years ago. They were like, rock is dead. They were talking about how pop music, and it was all about looks, and it was all about that. From the day you could put a video, even before the MTV days, from the days you could put a person up and just have them in where it was about visuals, not about their song and the way they sounded, that has shifted. And that started in the days of Elvis.
And I would say they're partially right.
That's right. It was a slow burn. It was a real slow
It
burn.
wasn't like the world imploded all at once, but it
Right.
got worse. Now, so you're going to say it's a slow burn.
Yes.
I think it was a slow burn, but then it hit a peak where it just got fucking destroyed all at once.
Well, see,
And that was between 1997 and 2003.
yeah, that's when Clear Channel pretty much took every radio station in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't Google that. I mean,
No.
it's just the way it felt.
No, I had a cousin and several friends in the DJ industry. He was DJ, and I said, "Can you play this song, Jim?" I can't. I don't even get to decide what goes on the radio anymore. They send me a what is a file disc. He sticks it in, and he said, and it cues me when to talk, and it cues me even what to say.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And
we lost radio personalities. We lost the people who had the ability to go, you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, Rush would not exist now.
The ones that are here in Chicago, they're like pirate radio stations.
Yeah.
The guys that are on them are like the same disc jockeys from like 35 years ago.
They're going to grow again. It's going to happen again.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
already people going back to people, right? And people going back to vinyl and those who are hearkening back to the days of the old. That's coming back. Listen,
I think vinyl is a nostalgia thing, but I think you're right. I think what's happening is people are taking control of what.
That's what I mean.
By picking streaming and all these different things, they're saying, "Fuck you, Clear Channel. We don't want a part of this." That's why people are buying Apple Music, because Apple said, "We're not going to be the DJs. We don't give a shit. You listen to what you want."
Absolutely. So let me take this a step further. So if you have the vinyl folks, it's just that people are hearkening to be able to control their music again. Spotify, as shitty as it is on the surface, is allowing people to build playlists.
Yeah, but the one thing I don't like about Spotify is that if you put it on random, then you're getting spoon-fed.
Yes. Then you're spoon-fed shit. Hey, I have the same problem with YouTube. If I let that thing autoplay, it'll go from where I'm watching, like I was watching Ghost, and then it shows me an Anderton's video. I'm like, why did you just switch? I'm watching Ghost videos. I had 3 Ghost videos in a row, and now you're going to show me Anderton's TV. You know why? Because they're fucking, that's money for you. And I don't even have ads. I have YouTube Premium, which used to be YouTube Red, but I guess they didn't want to be.
They changed it like every other month.
Well, the reason they changed
was stupid anyway, because YouTube Red sounds like porn.
Sounds like RedTube, and that's a porn channel. But
Red anything is porn.
Yeah, don't look that up, kiddies. So the point that I'm getting at is this: if we start taking control of what we listen to, I did that when I made tapes back in the 80s and 90s, and the minute you could put a CD and put it in your car, I had a CD player in my car. So I was like, I can put 275 songs on MP3 in my car, and I have exactly what I want to hear. That's what I'm doing. But what my point is about the slow burn is this: so that the record companies, as soon as something gets popular, they crush it. Punk music, popular, crush it.
The way they crush it, though, is by making it commoditized.
That's right. They make it a commodity. Hair metal was cool until it became too cool.
Yeah, like Rat and Dokken were good, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we need Poison.
Right. All of a sudden, Poison. I mean, come on. Do we really need Poison?
No, hell no.
But Motley Crue was cool. Dokken was cool.
I don't even know if I mean, so.
Yeah, I would still call Motley Crue.
When you start looking at groups like Motley Crue, though, and this is where I think we see the destruction, that slow burn taking hold, was when they decided that they were going to take bands like Motley Crue, who were a huge risk because they were messy human beings.
Yes.
Everybody knew that they were on drugs and they were alcohol, and it was easy to control and manipulate them.
That's the other side. When we talked to Sawyer, the heck was his name? What was his first name? Sorry, we had him here in my house. He was talking about how they fed him drugs.
Yeah, remember? Yeah. I mean, you can go back and listen to that episode.
And so we'll have to link that episode.
It was Don.
Don, that's it. Don Sawyer. I know his sister Karen, and I was like, what was his first name?
Don Sawyer,
Dan. Yeah, Don Sawyer. So if you go back and look up our episode on Don Sawyer, and we'll link it in the show notes, Don told us you know, right there, they fed them girls, they fed them drugs, they fed
Put
them
them in that very expensive house.
put them up in an expensive
Gave
house.
them every luxury they could give them to control them.
That's right. Because a little bit of cocaine keeps an 18, 20-something year old kid under control.
Yeah, $50 worth of cocaine saves them $3,000 worth of legal bills.
Absolutely. And a few beers and a couple of girls that are just looking for a good time.
Yeah,
and their own cocaine of their own.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing is like, and that's look, the whole industry is a mess. It's been a mess for a really long time. There's always these rays of hope and light underneath the surface if you dig around enough. I mean, the underground metal scene, as much as Jim, you may not like it, it is at least pure.
Oh no, I don't. Just because I don't like the music that Ghost does, they seem like the Styx of.
Well, they're not
like
so
the of metal.
Let's leave Ghost out of this. But I'm talking about like the really underground stuff, like Hate Eternal and bands like that. Look, those guys are really small independent labels, and they're just making ends meet.
Well, for me,
they love.
That's right. I mean, what's that? Anvil.
Yeah, exactly.
We've spoken about them before. Anvil has never given up. Those poor bastards.
Relentless.
The lead singer, was delivering lunches for schools in southern southern Canada.
Yeah.
And the guy, come on, it's out in middle, he's like Midwestern Canada. So if you look at that, geez, that guy, he never gave up hope. And if it hadn't been for somebody who loved them the same way that we're talking about right now, who had a passion enough to do a stupid little video, right? That documentary. If that documentary hadn't been done, they still would have been delivering those things. But now they're I mean, I'm not saying that they made it rich, but they're doing okay now.
But you guys, when you see those guys like on a show or like whatever, or even just playing music on YouTube or whatever, you can get behind that band because
that's right.
Look, they're legit. They didn't fucking lie, cheat, and steal their way through it. Nobody handed them the keys to the kingdom to control them and manipulate them so that they could take money off of them. I feel like it's a more pure thing, but it's basically about integrity. Those guys kept their integrity.
And to claim that, I'm not saying that Nickelback went that far, but they still had to work. Here's my thing. This is my take on things. Whether it's Nickelback or Rihanna or whoever, most of them, they're not that 14-year-old girl that got handed a multi-million-dollar contract because she had a YouTube video that exploded, or Rebecca Black, who no one should have ever heard that trite that she shared on YouTube. But if it wasn't for YouTube and the fact that everybody loves a Friday, the song would never have been heard. My point is, we can't assume that the people behind. I want to make a quick observation here. Okay, so remember Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, right? Meatloaf.
Yep.
Meatloaf, for my generation, Meatloaf was huge. Yeah. And when I say Meatloaf was huge, I don't just mean the fact that he's physically huge or what.
No, he was a monstrous level performer. A year after that album came out.
Yeah. And they struggled. That album didn't sell.
It just took forever for that fucking thing to take off.
Right. There was a part he had a part in a movie that was kind of a bit part, but now if you go to Rocky Horror Picture Show, you of course have to say Meatloaf for dinner again. So it's kind of fun and funny in a way. That guy was living in a trailer a few years later.
Yeah, because he fell apart.
Because again,
Him and Jim Steinman didn't work together again.
No, not for years.
Until they did Battle to Hell 2.
Battle to Hell 2. And what'd they do? I would do anything for love, but I won't do that.
Chances are, if you think of a Meatloaf song, it's off those two records.
Exactly.
So, and you know what? He invested his money a lot better the second time around.
That's right.
So
he was very smart with it the second. And Ian, who is it? Scott Ian is his brother-in-law or something like that.
I didn't know that.
Son-in-law? Yeah, Scott Ian's in the family now. But I want to say he's either his brother-in-law or his cousin-in-law or something like that. I don't remember, but I do know they're related now by marriage. But what I'm getting at is, you look at these bands, and we make a lot of assumptions, really do. But the fact is, I mean, and these pop musicians, we're thinking, oh, these pop musicians, they get this stuff and they don't even appreciate it and they don't get it. Leif Garrett, look at what he does now. He'll do anything for money. And the reason was because, again, they took a kid. He was a little kid, and they exploited him. And then he was like, oh, not a good little kid anymore. Bye. Get out.
So ultimately, I guess what we're saying here is that it's not necessarily the music's fault, and I get that. Look, I don't think so. We're going to back up a little bit. Let's talk about Ghost, because we spent a lot of time bitching about. I've spent a lot of time bitching about Nickelback.
Yes.
And I will continue to do so until I'm dead. Ghost.
I would go see them live.
Ghost, on the other hand, presents an interesting concept because Ghost is a band that is very clearly looking back at what's come before them. Okay, so they're referencing Black Sabbath and pretty much any Satanist iconography you can find anywhere. And even going to like movies and stuff about the occult. And I think that's definitely not a unique thing. But I would say that because they have chosen to be pop metal, which is very much what they're doing.
Yep.
Some of the critique you had of it was like, oh, it's like over-compressed guitars and things. It's like, yeah, okay, so you would think that, but I don't know that an average audience does.
No, I heard over-compressed vocals.
Okay, yeah, so the vocals are very overdone.
And a lot of layers, which meant live, because nobody else. So those who are not familiar with Ghost,
he's pitchy live too.
Yeah, the band wears masks. They're obviously not singing because they have no mouths in the masks.
No, the lead singer dresses up like the Black Pope.
No. I'm not talking about the lead singer. He wears makeup. I'm talking about the rest of the band. So the remainder of the band wears a mask. I like their new masks. I think they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
The look of the band, I would go see them in live, but here's what I was getting at. So I saw a live video where they were playing what looked like Donegan. Now it's live at
Donegan.
Yeah, Donegan. Anyway,
England, right?
Yeah. So it looks like they're playing there. A lot of people, and they're chanting. You see him up on the stage, like you said, he's very pitchy live. I saw a few where he was singing live, and I could picture Randy Jackson going, "That was pitchy, dog." But he was, how do I say this?
But it's real rock.
Yes, it was real rock, but he was definitely singing with a track because there were like 4 vocal.
Well, and so you could say that today. I guarantee you go see Nickelback, you're going to see tracks. I guarantee it.
I've seen Nickelback live.
Yeah, those of you I guarantee it. There were tracks.
I have paid for tickets to go see Nickelback.
Oh, you fucking idiot!
I took the whole family. My whole family.
Oh my god!
They loved them.
You just pay them more and more. Just give them all your money.
If it wasn't for my kids, I never would have heard of Nickelback.
Oh my god!
Well,
so you did donate to charity after this, right? To offset your bad karma.
So, yeah, well, a little side, I guess. But my daughter, who was, I think, 12 at the time, or 13.
Well, that's why you went.
The boys were like 7 or 8 because they're 5 years younger than she is, almost 6. And my wife, they were all like, "Yeah, I want to go see Nickelback." I want to see. All right, I'll go. They were actually pretty good live. And you know who opened for these guys? I mean, bands like Asking Alexander. And you're gonna hate those guys, right?
I don't even know who the fuck they are.
Yellow Card and stuff like this.
God, you had to traumatize me with the shit from that era.
I knew that would elicit a response.
Oh my god, Yellow Card! I haven't heard that band name in like fucking 30 years.
It tells you how long ago it was. I mean,
I think I heard that shit in the womb the last time. Excuse us while we cough up a lung, folks.
This was probably 10 years ago or more. So, because the boys are 18 now, so I'm going to be 19 soon. So yeah, it was a while ago. But my point is, we went to see them and they enjoyed it, and they enjoyed all the opening bands. And you know what's funny? So I had seen Motley Crue not too much before that.
Okay.
And Motley Crue, they did the St. Angeles tour. And
I've heard they use tracks now too.
Oh, you bet your ass. I saw a lot of where they were using tracks. But I will say that now, having seen them live, I know why. What's his name? I saw them live a long time ago, many times, but I didn't really think about until I tried to sing his stuff, Vince Neil's voice, right? Then I see him live. What he does on those songs, like "Shout at the Devil," where he sounds like he's got helium in his bunghole. Yeah, that's what he sounds like when he talks. I was like,
I know.
Oh, shit.
So
they're going back to Ghost.
Speaking of tracks, I could see making the argument. Okay, so Ghost is a metal band, and like metal bands don't typically use tracks because they don't have the production budget, right? Ghost is not really a metal band. Okay,
no, they have a production budget.
Yeah, there's some money behind that group.
Yeah, there.
So anyway, go on. What were you saying?
But you know what's weird? So I saw an interview with Ghost. I think I posted that thing in the group, and what was weird about it was this. So you're sitting there, I'm watching the video, and I go, wow, the members' families only recently, when the video was posted, found out they were in the band. They didn't know what they did for a living. It was like they were going off to do some military secret shit.
They would probably just tell them, I'm going on tour, and I'm not allowed to talk about what I'm doing. For the sake of the band. And I'm sure the family members had probably guessed at that point,
Yeah, but isn't that weird?
I think that was more or less like regarding extended family. So
could be. I don't know. I guess the guy said it was just kind of like a weird thing. Now I saw recently. Okay, let's talk about metal. Let's talk about Gwar.
Gwar's not so. All right, let me find out what they consider Gwar to be this time, so I know the right bands to compare them to.
All I know about Gwar is that lead singer who passed away last year. By the way, God rest his soul.
Was it last year? I thought it was longer than that.
Might have been a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So they're considered thrash metal, which is what I thought. Yep. Some people have said shock rock, hardcore punk. There's definitely hardcore punk elements to Gwar. I think Gwar's real. I don't know anybody who listens to Gwar just for the music. Okay.
No, of course not. I think that Gwar was the kind of band you went to see because it was freaking hilarious. I mean, the guy.
Here's the list of people they mutilated on stage: O.J. Simpson, John Kerry, Mike Tyson, Ronald Reagan, pretty much every American president.
Jerry Springer. I saw the one where they fed Jerry
John Paul II, Osama bin Laden, Michael Jackson, Al Gore, John McCain, Hillary Clinton, Paris Hilton, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Adolf Hitler, fuck yes, Lady Gaga, Marilyn Manson, Jerry Springer, Sarah Palin, Snooki, Mitt Romney, Pope Francis, Justin Bieber, Tony Abbott, Donald Trump, and many others.
Okay, most of those people, the Marilyn Manson one, that was pretty funny, but that was a fake. The Hitler one obviously was a fake.
Oh, they're all fakes. They're mutilating.
No. Jerry Springer one was hilarious. It was on the Jerry Springer show, and they brought Jerry Springer out, and they fed him to they have this worm that comes out.
Yeah, no.
Fed him to the worm. It was so funny because you could see Jerry crawling inside.
There is not a show on earth that is as crazy as going to a Gwar show.
Yeah, that would have been a show that I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to see one of those.
I think Gwar's still around. No, I don't think Gwar quit. I think he's still around.
Even after he died?
Yes.
Oh wow.
They haven't performed since 2016.
Okay.
But
he passed away.
According to this, I'm not sure. No, they're still active.
Huh.
Yeah. So Dave Brockie was the one that passed away. Yep. He passed away in 2015.
He was only 50.
2014. Yeah, he was so he had drug problems that had plagued him most of his career.
Yep.
And so yeah, they're still performing. I don't know who's singing now, but Kim Dilla.
Oh, okay.
So
is that the woman that they used to have with them?
I'm not sure.
Or is that a guy? Because Kim could be either one.
No, Kim has never been in the band before.
Okay.
No, Kim Dilla did, and now Michael Bishop has taken over. Michael Bishop was the original bassist.
Oh yeah, he left the band. Yep.
It's kind of cool that they're like bringing people back to fill in the roles and things. I hope Gore continues for a long time because I think the music industry needs those performance artists. We talked about that on the show before too.
Right, we talked about that with Buckethead. The world needs people like that. If you haven't seen Buckethead, folks, if you haven't seen Buckethead, folks, you're really missing out. It's a really good show, and you get two things: you get the performance art, and you get the thing. That was the thing about So in my day, Electric Light Orchestra was a performance artist band. They had a whole presence that they did up there. It wasn't until The Wall that Pink Floyd did anything like that. Although before that, I'm too young.
They had the floating
60s
pig and shit.
Right. They had the Pink Floyd show with Syd Barrett, and a little bit after that.
Even the Animals, they had the floating pig. I mean,
right. They've always had the pig and then lights.
Yeah, or the airplane, or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. I got to see the airplane. I got to see The Wall, and I got to see Dark Side of the Moon. I got to see not Delicate Sound of Thunder.
I think The Wall is probably the most performance oriented record.
Oh yeah,
because it was written with the intention of like touring it.
Right. Performance was at the central.
So,
but you look at what happened with Styx. Now, of course, people are going to throw Rotten Tomatoes at their.
I've already said my piece about Mr. Roboto.
Mr. Roboto, it trashed them.
Yeah, dude.
Totally trashed them.
Even though the music on it's pretty solid.
Yeah. The music was solid, but the problem was Styx was one of those bands that was stuck in between. They weren't pop and they weren't rock. They weren't indie enough to be indie. You listen to that.
Yeah,
The Grand Illusion, and that's a really good, solid album. Pieces of Eight is a solid album. Crystal Ball is a solid album. And
but people couldn't tell where they were supposed to fit, and
right.
So if you were a Styx fan, that meant you were getting shit from both sides.
Absolutely, because you weren't poppy enough for the pop people, and you weren't. It was Tommy Shaw that said, "Let's leave Barry Manilow's music to Barry Manilow." When they wrote Babe. The thing was that song exploded. And just like Kiss with Beth, that song exploded. And it was not representative of Kiss.
Right.
Just as Babe really wasn't representative of
yeah. So all right. Well, we've definitely gone over our allotted recording here. I think we need to wrap it up.
Okay.
First off, I want to say we do have one Patreon supporter. I wanted to bring it up in the beginning. One new Patreon supporter in Mark Gannon. Thank you very much, Mark, for your contribution to the show. Anybody else who's interested, obviously you can scroll back to the intro where I talk about the how to get involved with the show. We've had a massive asthma attack during this episode. So I apologize for any wheezing that's been going on, shortness of breath. Jim can see me. He probably thinks I've been angry the whole show, and I'm like,
I was hoping for a little more shouting.
Like, I couldn't. I fucking couldn't. I would pass out if I shouted.
For those who have stayed long enough to hang out, next week we've got a special guest coming. I won't give any more hints than meow. That's the only hint I'm going to give.
Yep. Carlisle's. Yep. I've been David.
I have been Jim.
And next week we have a guest. We've been the Practical Guitarists.
Yes, we have.